Welcome to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. The official podcast of the Diablo Valley College Alumni Association. As we celebrate 75 years of DVC's impact on education, careers, and community, we're honored to share the incredible journeys of alumni who've transformed their time on our vibrant campus into meaningful careers, community contributions, and personal success. Each Tuesday, we spotlight DVC alumni, from first-generation graduates to entrepreneurs, educators, and leaders who share the triumphs, challenges, and pivotal moments that shaped their lives. And on Thursdays, it's Resource Thursday. We dive into the programs, departments, and services that make DVC the supportive, dynamic community it is, exploring how they serve students and how you can connect with them. Whether you're a current student, recent graduate, or longtime alum, join us as we honor DVC's legacy and discover how our past continues to inspire the future. Thank you for being part of this journey. Be sure to tune in, subscribe, and celebrate with us. DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. And now, join our host, alumni manager, Charlie Daly.
And we're live. So why don't you start by introducing yourself?
So my name is Tori Pearson, and I am currently 19, and I'm a second-year student at DVC.
Awesome. So I know you came in and you interviewed me for this wonderful article you're doing with the Inquirer.
Yes.
And that was kind of what made me interested, was how you ended up here. This is, interviewing people for articles was not your original plan.
No, definitely not.
Let's start with kind of where you started from, and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've grown up here in Concord my entire life. My mom grew up in Walnut Creek and my dad grew up in San Diego, and they had a long history but settled down here. And actually for schooling and stuff like that, I was fortunate enough that my grandfather helped with my family's support of the tuition. And so I ended up going to a private school from kindergarten through 8th grade. It's a little school named Palmer. It's in Walnut Creek. Unfortunately, it's no longer in business. They shut down during COVID days and everything like that.
Yeah, I think COVID put a lot of those places out of business, unfortunately.
It's kind of you have to adapt to it or you have to kind of back out. And I think they chose to, go their own ways, which is kind of sad, but it was an interesting thing to grow up around. Cause my family, I would consider us, lower middle class, I would say. We're not poor by any means, but we're certainly not, not having to worry about money. And so being grown up in that economic environment and then surrounded by kids who were the top 1% of the Walnut Creek community, it was interesting. I mean, I had this little friend group and everyone went out of the country for spring breaks. And I had one friend who literally lived across the street from Stephen Curry for 2 years. So again, it was just really interesting to sort of be in that environment where, there were 40 kids in our entire grade. All of us grew up together because typically you start young and then you just keep going. It was very much a feeder school for De La Salle and Carondelet. And everyone knew everybody. We all knew every teacher. We knew every hall monitor, stuff like that. Very traditional. So I kind of grew up in that environment for a while. And it kind of put me in this little bubble, I feel like, where I had this sheltered sort of area, and that was all I knew. I mean, things were so taboo. We did not have cell phones at all. We had a story that went around each grade where some kid no one knew the name of 5 years ago brought an unlit cigarette to school and got expelled, and that was a little bedtime story type of thing for when we got bored at recess.
That was the boogeyman story.
Exactly. So then go from there. I was the only one that went to Ygnacio Valley High School, which is where I graduated from. The majority of everyone else went to either Acalanes or De La Salle and Carondelet.
Mm-hmm.
So to go from 40 kids, predominantly Caucasian and all that stuff and so sheltered, to a 400 people in our grade where I think I was one of 5 or 6.
It was a multicultural event.
Yes, very much a minority majority school. And it was different. I mean, I had never seen anyone smoke or vape, and then people were doing it in the bathrooms, as things happen in high school. But it was just very, very different. But I feel like that really kind of exposed me to the fact that there's a whole bigger world with all these different issues, but also all these different types of people from different backgrounds. I mean, I consider myself fortunate to have a house when a lot of my friends lived in apartments or had to work 2 jobs to help support their families. And I feel like it was very humbling to sort of realize that where I was on the lower economic scale back in K through 8th. Now, I mean, there were so many other people who had so much more to experience and so much more to adjust to than me. So it was really humbling, and I really enjoyed my time there. I made some really good friends. But having had family members who all went to DVC, my aunt, my uncle, my sister also transferred from here, I think that it was just sort of naturally assumed that I would go there and then transfer later. Whereas a lot of my other friends had to, go to 4 years or maybe stay behind and work for a couple years before going to jobs. So it was definitely different, but
that's good.
Yeah.
I know, especially coming out of like Palmer, a lot of the, this is something that I've learned that kids like going to Monte Vista and places like that.
Mm-hmm.
The first expectation is that they're going to go off to some big D1 school
Yes.
and excel. You're going to be a doctor or whatever. And a friend of mine, his daughter, did that, and a lot of those kids before the end of the semester are back because they just couldn't hack it going from high school to a big college. And not to say DVC isn't large. I mean, we got a pretty good bunch of people.
A lot of people here for sure.
But it's not as big a step as going to like UC Berkeley or to, be in Duck or going to the USC or something like that. So
Exactly. No, and it is different. I mean, I think that DVC is such a smart choice for people. Especially being so young. Some people are very motivated, determined, and have a set plan for everything. But, there's so many people who think they want to be a doctor, but then maybe they end up doing something completely different. And I think being committed to those 4 years at a university puts you in a tough position where if you want to change your path, you're already kind of locked into this, or you have to uproot a lot of things. One thing I noticed at YV especially was that DVC, I was in this program called the IB program, which is basically like an accelerated learning. It was a wonderful program, taught me a lot of things. However, they really liked to display the accomplishment stories, I would say, the people that are going to Harvard or Stanford, as any academic program would really. But I remember that our principal at the time, who now no longer is the principal there, because he decided to move on to his different thing, but he automatically signed everyone up in the senior class up for DVC, which on the surface seems great. However, I felt like the message that was said was, well, if they don't really have anywhere else to go, at least they have DVC. And my thing is that while that is great, I feel like DVC was sort of treated as a consolation prize sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Where
Okay.
it's sort of a, hey, it's here, but it would be amazing if you got into Harvard. But DVC is a backup where in my opinion, DVC is the choice I would have done above anything else. I mean, my sister Hannah, she had to apply for universities before going to DVC as a activity in school. And she got into Irvine. She got into San Diego State. She got into, all these great schools, but she chose DVC, as many people do. So I just think that it's a really great option, and it was definitely a great one for me. Considering when I left high school, I wanted to be a psychology major, and I wanted to maybe have my own practice someday. I talked with a bunch of people and stuff like that, and then I took a real psychology class here, and I'm like, this is different. It's a good class. I loved my teacher, but doing this for the next 4 years, it wasn't something I could imagine for myself, which is why I'm grateful I didn't go into a university, because then I'd be kind of stuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my friend whose daughter went to Monte Vista, and she went off to University of Oregon, and she did great.
Yeah.
But she got 6 months in and decided she wanted to be a nurse. Well, the problem is Oregon doesn't have a nursing program at all, and so she ended up finishing out the year there. But then she ended up coming here and going to Cal State East Bay, but she went by way of DVC. Mm-hmm. So they could have saved some nickels that way, but,
Exactly.
But to your point is that, it's like coming to DVC, it gives you a chance if you're not absolutely committed to some path, it gives you a chance to kind of like sit down and like figure out what do you want to do. A friend of mine told me that, if when, my kids go to college, if they didn't change their major at least twice, then they weren't paying attention,
Yeah, exactly.
And that is what happened with my kids. So,
well, yeah. And I just think also DVC, I mean, now in this semester being a new English major, I switched my major over the summer, and now being a part of the Inquirer, I feel like DVC is such a great gateway because of the people that you meet. I mean, going from high school directly into college to 4 years, amazing. However, you don't really have that opportunity to meet many people in your fields except for your professors. Where at DVC, I mean, the amount of people I've met that have taken an English degree into different directions that kind of gives me an idea of what I could do for the future is amazing. And I don't feel like I would have met any of those people, much less the amount of people I did, if it weren't for me sort of staying local and exploring a little bit more and putting myself out there and having the freedom to do that. So,
wow. Okay. Excuse me.
No worries.
So currently you're working on a project. I know this is how we got to know each other a little bit. So talk a little bit about what we're working on here.
So right now I'm working on, right now it's one article, but hopefully a series of articles covering different DVC alumni because it is the 75th anniversary of the college. So I just think it's really important to celebrate the people who have been through this community, as well as make the accomplishments of this community more known to students like me who maybe didn't realize how many amazing people with amazing careers have been through here and also have come back to sort of share their experiences with the DVC Alumni Association, everything like that. So I figured it'd be good to get the word out a little bit more if I can.
I'm actually very excited about it. I really am. And I know that your professor is very excited about too.
Yes.
Mike.
Mr. Leviton, yes.
Yes. Yeah. He was really, really stoked. So you had an interview recently with one of our alumni. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So, sorry, I'm going to pause. I don't want to mispronounce her name. If that makes sense.
I appreciate that.
I'm just going to say, I know how to pronounce her first name, Mojde.
Yes.
I had an interview with Mojde, who was a DC alumni who actually came from Iran, I believe, when she was little. Then she ended up coming here in the Pleasant Hill area when she was a little girl and growing up in this area. And just hearing her story was fantastic. I mean, she's accomplished so many things in the computer science field. She's now the chancellor for the 4CD, school district and everything like that. But she was just really an amazing lady to talk to. And I feel like she was just so very personable. I mean, she began the interview asking me about myself and then went into her story. And she talked about how, I remember one line that really stuck with me in that interview was she said she didn't really feel like she had a place she belonged academically until she got to DVC, where there were so many other people who had stories like hers or different stories that were as diverse as hers. And it was just a pleasure to get to talk to her. And I feel like that wouldn't be something I ever would have gotten to do, at least in person, if it weren't for joining the Inquirer and going to DVC. And it kind of leads back to the points I said earlier. So it was an absolute pleasure talking to her. And I can't wait to hopefully do her story justice a little bit in this upcoming article.
I'll bet you do a great job with it. One of the things that you keep coming back to, and I think at least this is what I've been finding as I do these stories, and again, I'm really excited about working on these with you, is that's what I hear a lot, is that people, they didn't have a place till they got here, and then they found themselves here, and I think that's really exciting. So let's get back to you. And so what do you see like your next this year is going to look like? What do you think we're also, there could be an earthquake, the meteor could hit us, whatever.
Anything could happen.
Yeah. But beyond that, what do you think it looks like for you?
Well, first of all, I want to transfer, hopefully after this year. I'm doing the application, everything right now for UC Santa Barbara, which is where I want to hopefully go to complete my degree and everything like that.
It's pretty down there.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. Plus my uncle Mike graduated from there as well. So sort of a family thing. But this upcoming year at DVC, I really just sort of want to try and involve myself more in the community, because I feel like last year, I met people in my classes, connected with professors, but I sort of did the classic sign up for classes, complete the classes, move on to the next classes. But I realized that in order to be an English major, it's going to be much more of a sort of a nepotism game, for lack of a better word, where I need to reach out and meet different people who can vouch for me. And as well as my mom, Nancy, she really preached sort of me this last summer. It's like, hey, you're going into your second year. You have the structure of what you want to do. I want you to do something beyond yourself. My sister was part of the Concord Rotaract Committee.
Oh, really?
Or Rotary Committee, yes.
Yes. Well, it is Rotaract.
Rotaract,
Yes.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I always get too
No,
confused.
and I get that. But yes.
Yeah, because we were both in it in our own respective times. We were both in the Rotary Club in high school at YV, and then she ended up doing it in college as well. But being a part of that community was her sort of beyond herself thing. And my mom said, you don't have to do exactly what your sister did, but you have to find something where you serve more of a purpose than just your own self and your own path. And so, considering I've always really liked writing and everything like that, I wanted to see how to get part of the Inquirer. And I didn't know how to at first. It was a little bit confusing, but I took a public speaking class over the summer for credits. And I ran into a girl named Melissa Dufresne, who's our editor-in-chief. But she sat next to me, and we were talking about ourselves. And I said, well, I really want to maybe do the school newspaper. I've never done it before, but I have no idea where to start. And she went, the Inquirer? I'm editor-in-chief. And then it was kind of weird how we met each other like that, and then now I'm here. But I really want to kind of see that through to the end. Hopefully do it for 2 semesters because I've really liked it so far. So I could definitely see myself doing it again in the spring. But really just sort of focus on my academics, maybe focus on reaching out in the community and making connections, covering a lot more school events to cover in the paper, and then thus getting involved in school events in order to be there to cover them. And hopefully just sort of make my own little mark on DVC. I mean, not necessarily known by everyone here because we have so many people, but
Yep.
to have something to say, hey, look at this, I wrote these articles, or hey, look at this, I know this person now. And do more than just the academics, but also sort of advance myself as part of the community. So
I think that's a good plan. I'm a big believer in learning and knowing how to network because all the jobs that I've really loved, I got because of somebody I knew and or heard about because of somebody I knew, and it's okay. And I think that's a really key thing. I was fortunate enough last spring is to do a class for one of the professors here that was doing Europe instruction. And it was about how to network. And it's amazing to me that, again, I was instructing folks on something that took me 40 years to learn, but again, it's like that. Your mother's right is get involved in a club, learn how to network, learn how to build a network, all that good stuff. So, do you have any other outside activities or fun things that you like to do beyond that? Or
so at the moment, no, just because it does take up so much of my time. But like I said, I definitely would love to sort of get beyond just my classes, which I feel like I've been doing now. For example, I know that the Alumni Association has some events coming up in late October.
Yes, we do.
Yes, you do. And I've been trying to sort of prep myself for those, save the date on the calendar and all that stuff. And also, classic English major, I like to read a lot. And so that's kind of what I do a lot in my free time when I'm not working on school stuff. And so like, for example, The Boy in the Boat is a book I recently checked out because I want to make sure I have that all done before the author speaks at your guys' seminar happening on the 25th. 25th.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, good. And then what other type of things interest you usually have? Besides reading, like, I'm getting back to it, but I was a voracious reader. I read all sorts of stuff, but.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's not really an activity. It's more of just who I am, like personality wise. I really love socializing with people and getting to know people. Like chit-chatting people at grocery stores, however cheesy that is. I'm that person that's like, oh, how is your day going? When you buy something. But no, I think I just right now I'm trying to really expand myself because kind of backtracking a little bit to the Palmer days, I was very I didn't say much. I didn't really go outside of myself. Because social environment, it's hard for anybody growing up. Middle school is a very hard time.
It sucks.
It sucks a little bit. And not to say that everything sucked, but I remember that there were 40 kids in our grade, half boys, half girls. So I had 20 girls from kindergarten through 8th grade to be friends with. And thankfully, I kind of made some friends in the 1st grade, 2nd grade area. But you're not the same person that you were at 7 that you are at 13. And so having to be with the same people throughout your changes, it's kind of hard to really expand yourself when you're with that same small community. And I remember that there's this one person that I feel like for some reason decided to make sure that I stayed silent. I mean, I don't know if it was just because she didn't like me very much or whatever that was. I'll never know. You never do. But I didn't say very much, especially in like 6th to 8th grade, because I didn't want to like cause a conflict or I didn't want to be shunned or anything like that. And so going from that environment to then YV, where there are so many people and I don't know anybody.
You went from the quiet room to the park with 1 million people in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I really kind of sat down with myself over the summer before I started high school and was like, okay, this is my one like wipe clean card. What am I going to do with it? And so funny enough, I tried out for cheerleading, which is completely not what I was like in 8th grade. Mm-hmm. But I figured, why not? And Coach Karma was the cheerleading coach. And even though I had no experience before, she said, well, you're trying really hard. I think I had a broken ankle too, but I still showed up, did everything I could because I broke it playing softball the previous, like in the spring. But she took me in, and then I feel like going through cheerleading camp, having to be with all these girls, but also do things for the community. I mean, we helped with fundraisers. We gave people mm-hmm. water on like Concord marathons. It was a lot more than just, pom-poms and uniforms and everything like that. And so I feel like being a part of that really taught me that A, I have a voice, and B, it kind of taught me a sense of confidence. And so then I used that to make some friends in high school. I stuck with cheerleading for all 4 years. And so I feel like the confidence that I learned in high school was something I never would have learned if I sort of stuck with the same group of people and maybe gone to Carondelet. Not that I could afford it, but
let's pretend in a perfect world.
In a perfect world, but no, I still have friends from the Palmer days, specifically Lauren and Michaela, the 2 girls that I really stuck with the most. But I've been talking with them, and they sometimes say like, "Oh, it must have been cool, getting to have that redo button," because they went to Carondelet. They're doing their own amazing things, but it was definitely the same group of people plus extra people they met, but. It was a chance to sort of redo myself a little bit. And so I feel like I try and take that socialization I had in high school and apply it now to hopefully, connect with more people, make more friends here. Because it's hard to do at DVC. It's a commuter school. It's not the same environment as a university or anything.
Yeah, you're not living in a dorm. So
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I know it's kind of a cliche answer, but I feel like one big hobby of mine or thing I like to do is just to meet new people and stay social.
Okay. So there's something that kind of attracted your story. There's a bit of it I want to pick out, and because I think it shows great maturity and wisdom, and that's really, you talked about that. You go from teenage, the preteens, the middle school years. They're under the best of circumstances. They're not great.
Yeah.
It's just that's a tough time period for a kid,
for everybody.
But you got reflective about that time, what you were, and you went from the small school to another large school that was not where all your friends were going, and you chose to be very intentional about what you did. Is this the way you approach a lot of things now, or is it just something that came to you? Or because it sounds like, truth be told, as you're going through your story, you've done this a number of times.
Yeah. To
where you go, oh, okay, I got a chance here. Oh, wait, no, that's not working out. I can do this over here, or I don't like this. So talk a little bit about that, because I don't think especially most kids going from 8th grade to freshman year, they're not going to do that. So
yeah, I think it's just sort of I don't plan out every single thing. I'm not that articulate into knowing exactly what I'm going to do in this and this and that. However, I do sort of like to imagine what I want to be and sort of picture, well, hey, for high school, that 8th grade summer, I was sort of sitting with myself and thinking, well, what kind of person do I want to be? Do I want to join band? My sister was a huge band person. Do I want to follow in that footsteps, or do I want to branch out? Do I want to, be a little bit more reserved, or do I want to meet more people? And then when I figured out kind of where I hoped I would be, I tried to sort of push myself a little bit out of my comfort zone in order to get to that place. And I feel like that sort of thing that I did is something I like to do now. For example, I thought about this last summer. Well, I'm an English major now, apparently. I switched it on. I switched it on Insight, so apparently it's confirmed. What do I want to do with that? Do I want to do PR with that? Do I want to do journalism? Do I want to be a teacher? Well, I don't feel like I have enough coordination and time management skills to be a teacher. So then, what do I want to do? Well, I still like writing. Okay, that's great. I like being with people, that kind of same socialization a teacher might get. That's great. What are things that I could do to sort of experience and see what I want to do? Well, if I'm a journalist someday, I have to get some experience. Here's the school newspaper. And so maybe try that out. And if I really don't like it, then, maybe evaluate being a teacher again or something. But then I just kind of got lucky and I met some really great people that are on the Inquirer this year that, really kind of opened that door and made me realize, oh, well, I do like interviewing people and meeting people and then writing about them. And that's the same thing this year. What direction what school do I want to go to? Santa Barbara. What do I need to do to get there? I need to take these classes. All right. Well, do I want to take 5 classes a semester? No. So I'll take one over the summer where I met Alyssa. I feel like I'm a person that I really try and see, okay, well, long game, where might I go? And then try and sort of point myself in that direction. And also, I just think it's really important to push yourself out of your comfort zone, if not just a little bit, because I feel like that's when magical things can happen for you and you can discover more of yourself, even if it is uncomfortable at first. I think nothing ever progresses unless people take risks. Or calculated risks. So I feel like I tried to sort of do more of that. And that cheerleading experience freshman year was like my first little taste of that. And then I kind of carried that through to where I am now.
Wow. Okay. Well, see, I figured there was something in there. And I'm very impressed because a lot of folks, a lot of kids coming through high school aren't that focused on what the future is going to take,
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're kind of hedging your bet a little bit, not being completely committed to this one thing, and then being, if it doesn't work out, the world's going to end.
Yeah. Well, also as an English major, I mean, there's a lot of, I feel like there's a huge stigma around it where if you were a nursing major or if you were going for a business degree, it's a very impressive thing to say to somebody, I'm going into computer science. Whereas whenever I talk to anybody and say, oh, I'm an English major. Oh, that's nice. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a bit of a underappreciation, also an underestimated factor into that. And so that I feel like that also encouraged me more. Well, English is something I'm passionate about, but how am I going to make it something where I can show people, hey, being an English major is something where it can really take you places in life, or I can show that I can do this, which again, as I said with the school newspaper, it's something I can hold up and say, hey, these are the people I met because I'm an English major. These are the things that I did because I'm an English major. And Moshe actually did say that she had other people who worked alongside her that were English majors and that critical thinking skill took them forward. So it's great to be able to meet people like that, where they did all these different things with such a broad major. So hoping to figure out where I want to go with it in the near future before I transfer. So I have a bit more of a plan.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. So, so we discussed that. So I think we're kind of wrapping up. Is there any nuggets or anything you want to say to kind of get us to the home stretch there?
No, I mean, I just think that I feel like in some ways my story is very straightforward and simple, but then I also feel like in other ways, there's so many things that had to happen in order for me to figure out who I am. And so I just think that sometimes the littlest things can lead you to such bigger and broader and amazing experiences. If I hadn't gone from a private school to a public school, I never would have gotten that reality check and that realization that there's so much more out there that can be wrong rather than just someone slipping a cigarette in their backpack 5 years ago. And I've then having to find my place in high school made me realize that you have to push yourself a little bit before you can expand. And so I just think that it was a pleasure being here and sort of sharing a little bit more. And I hope, whoever listens maybe thinks a little bit more about, oh, well, these are the things I want to do. Even if I don't feel comfortable doing them, what's the worst that can happen? And maybe something great can come from it.
Well, and one of my favorite things is, yeah, but did you die? It's just,
that's such a great comment.
and if the answer is no, then you still got to go on,
Brush your knees, keep going. Yeah.
That's right. So, well, I want to thank you very much for your time today. And I'm looking forward to this year. This is going to be a fun year for both of us, I think.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll sign off now. Let's see. Oh.
Thank you for tuning in to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. The official podcast of the Diablo Valley College Alumni Association, celebrating 75 years of DVC's incredible impact on education, careers, and community. We hope today's episode gave you valuable insights into the journeys of our alumni and the powerful resources available at DVC. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday for inspiring alumni stories, and on Resource Thursdays, where we spotlight DVC's departments and services, showing you how they're shaping student success. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and exploring the connections that make DVC's legacy so special. And remember, DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next.